The Bioshock movie is in the news today because it is most likely going to be based on the first game, which makes sense because it is going to be the first Bioshock movie of potentially more, depending on how well it does. So it makes sense that they'd follow at least the first game. I can understand if they don't necessarily follow Jack, the main character of the first game, but I definitely feel like Rapture, like you have to make it in Rapture, right? Because Bioshock 1 and 2 are in Rapture, but the Bioshock 1 Rapture and the Bioshock 2 Rapture are two very different, not places, but they have very different vibes. So I feel like the first one is definitely the way to go. I don't know if they would be following the character and just following the game. I don't know if that's a good idea or not, honestly, because in the game, your character is mute, I'm pretty sure. And I don't know if I want them to give him a voice. It'd be kind of cool to see like a Easter egg of him in the movie or something like that, but I don't know if I'm okay with it if it was like just purely his story, because we already know his story. It's the game. We're gonna be on PC Gamer today. This is by Rich Stanton. Thank you for the article. It'll be linked down in the description if you'd like to check it out for yourself. The title goes, producer says Bioshock movie is definitely going to be based on the first Bioshock game, but don't expect it anytime soon. Yeah, I mean, it was only announced, I feel like it was announced this year, and they haven't even finished writing the script for the movie. So it doesn't surprise me that it's not coming anytime soon. I'm expecting this to be like a at earliest, maybe 2028, 2029 thing, because it's going to take a long time. And if they want to go with practical effects, it's going to take a long time to make those suits. They have to have a Big Daddy there somewhere. So making that suit's going to take a long time. I'm going to be really sad if it's CGI. I can understand some aspects of it being CGI, but I really hope they make it more practical, because I just prefer practical effects over full CG stuff. I don't mind CG stuff in the with the practical stuff, but I want like the mixture of both. I think is the best of both worlds in my opinion. Just before we get deeper into the article, I'd like to remind everyone, please subscribe to the channel. 95% of the people who watch my videos aren't subscribed, so please hit that subscribe button. Also, if you would like to support the channel directly, please go over to patreon.com/thetechnojelly and join the credits of all of these videos and some exclusive content as well. Netflix and 2K first announced an adaptation of Bioshock way back in 2022. Really? It was I swear it was this year. Maybe it was because they weren't quiet. Maybe. Now that the movie's producer has spilled the tiniest amount of tea about what's going on with it, the good news, we're going back to Rapture. Oh yeah, I couldn't imagine the game being in... I don't actually remember what the world is of Bioshock Infinite, but I can't imagine it being in that floating fortress world, because when people think of Bioshock, there's two things, or in terms of locations, they think of Rapture. In terms of characters, they think of the Big Daddy, and like the only thing that Bioshock Infinite has is Elizabeth, because like Elizabeth is relatively a well-remembered character and people enjoyed Elizabeth. But I feel like for the most part, when it comes to Bioshock, most people think of Rapture and that whole location. And I can't believe it was announced in 2022. I swear this was a more recent thing, but maybe it's because they kind of went dark after they announced it. So like this is the first thing they've said in a while, at least from what I've seen, and I pay attention relatively well in terms of like gaming stuff. So unless something went really, really low key, I don't think they've really talked about it. It always seemed likely that the movie would take the first game at its starting point, but of course, Irrational's parting gift to this series was to establish a structure that could handle any number of different stories with a few shared elements. There's always a lighthouse, etc. Producer Roy Lee has now confirmed with an interview with the direct the first game is the inspiration. Netflix wants us to keep everything under wraps, says Lee, before pulling back the curtain with the tiniest fraction, but it's definitely going to be based off the first Bioshock game. And I'm glad that he's using based off of, because I don't want it to be just a movie version of the first game, because I think one of the things that a lot of the recent success in video game adaptations into movies/shows is that using the games as a jumping off point or a structural look at it is a much better thing of trying to go beat for beat. Like for instance, like the Mario movie or the Fallout TV show. The Fallout TV show I think is the best example of it, because it takes the Fallout world and the items and factions and some gameplay design stuff, because like, you know, you can argue that slow motion is like them trying to do VATS, but I mean, to be fair, VATS, it's slow motion stuff in movies isn't exactly a big thing, so you know that's not really that different, but like you can see where they're coming from with a lot of these things, and I really hope that's the direction they're going for Bioshock, because I don't want a beat for beat of Jack's story. We already know that. I would love to see like the first half of the movie be Rapture before it gets destroyed, or at least some portion of the movie be Rapture before everything goes crazy. Or to be fair, Rapture was always kind of crazy, but before everything completely falls apart, and then have the rest of the movie be Rapture in its thing. And I don't think, maybe like you hear the plane crash or something like that from the first game, or you can see some characters from the first game, but like, because obviously some of them are going to be unavoidable. But I don't want, like, I want most of the characters in the movie probably to be movie specific characters, because we want them to be unique to the movie and be able to be their own characters and have their own stories. Because I think that's what a lot of video game media outside of video games fails on, is that they try to be the video game too much, because the part of the video game story's greatness is it that you're playing the video game, and it loses that fact if you are not playing the video game, which is why I think a lot of the earlier attempts were huge failures. Well, that, and there are other reasons too, of course, but like in terms of narrative, I want them to have it be able to be more based on, rather than a direct line for line thing, you know? Like, it wouldn't surprise me. I definitely want them to have "Would You Kindly" somewhere in this movie, you know? Or like, if you see Jack, I've been calling him Jack. I'm not entirely sure if his name is Jack. I really hope his name is Jack. I'm pretty sure his name is Jack though. Like, if you see Jack and someone say "Would you kindly," like him being directed like in the video game, in the games, I think that'd be really good. But like, I don't want the main thing to be like, that'd be a great Easter egg, but I don't want it to be super integral. Lee was on the promotional circuit for the new Stephen King adaptation of The Long Walk, and went on to say that Francois Lawrence will be moving on to direct Bioshock after the next installment of the Hunger Games. The Long Walk will become a reality because Bioshock was delayed for a little bit, where we had to do some more script work, says Lee. Which makes sense, the script needs to be done. And so as the script work is being done, we shot The Long Walk, and Lawrence was already committed to doing the next Hunger Game movie, and so it's just waiting for him whenever the Hunger Games is complete, and the script is just being worked on right now. Okay, that makes sense. There's a bunch of things that delayed it, so then that means the actual shooting of the movie will take much longer, or will start much longer, because they are busy. And honestly, I would say take as long as you need, you know? It's as long as the money, as long as money isn't a problem of it being delayed, I think they should wait, because Bioshock, for a lot of people, especially in the gaming industry, is a big deal, and a lot of people outside of the gaming industry know Bioshock, but they don't know it's Bioshock, because most people have seen the Big Daddy, they've seen the Little Sisters, but they don't know that it's necessarily from Bioshock. So I feel like a lot of people, and also the story of Bioshock, whether it be in the world of Bioshock, I think is very interesting, even if you're not a gamer. So I think they could really hit a good audience for this movie, because you don't need to be a gamer to enjoy this kind of world, which I think is a good thing. So I think they need to take their time, because if this bombs, it's going to suck really hard. Logar writer Mitchell Green is on script duties. The next Hunger Games movie, which has the charming title Sunrise of the Reaping, is scheduled to release on November 2026. So while the Rapture news is all very exciting, this will be a good long wait yet. Okay, so yeah, like I said, it's maybe even 2029, 2030 then, because if this movie is not even being out yet until 2026, then shooting for the movie for Bioshock might even not start until then, because like obviously the movie has to be done by this time, and it's going to be done for a while after this, but like I don't know in the movie industry how soon directors and stuff like that move on for movies when they're done. I assume they wait until it's out, but I could be wrong. But this is undoubtedly the right decision. The fantastical underworld dystopia of Rapture is the first thing I think of with Bioshock, along with the elements of the city, like the Big Daddies and Little Sisters running around. Seeing it for the first time is one of those great gaming moments, and it'll be great to see how the movie visually reimagines such a setting. And I agree, like the setting of Bioshock is one of the best things, and while I don't necessarily hate the fortress flying cities of Bioshock Infinite, I much rather prefer the first and second game's environment of Rapture, and I just think it's a lot more interesting. And honestly, even though it's kind of cool, I've never been that interested in the timey-wimey stuff of Infinite, though I understand why some people liked it. I preferred the Bioshock 1 and 2 stories. Honestly, Bioshock 2 is actually probably my favorite, because I played all of them recently, or relatively recent, in the last like 5 or 6 years, and I really enjoyed it. I played it on stream, and the second game's gameplay is definitely my favorite. The first game's story I think is hard to beat, and I don't know, I didn't hate Bioshock Infinite, but it definitely was my third favorite out of the three games. More of a concern might be the game's plot, as bound up as it is in question of player choice and free will. The game's trick, of course, is to make the player complicit in doing what they're told, and that's not a theme that translates enormously well to another medium. That is true. Director Lawrence did tell IGN earlier this year that the tricky project was now looking good after a new regime at Netflix slashing the film's budget in 2024. It's a tricky adaptation, so there's lots of things to figure out and get right, said Lawrence. There's regime changes at Netflix, so things stall out and get re-energized and stall out and get re-energized. And I think we're in a pretty good place, honestly. And I'd like to believe them. I think the biggest thing is, like I was saying before, is that you can't really put the game's trick in the movie, which is why I hope that they focus more on Rapture than the game's plot, because you can't do the game's plot in a movie. It's impossible. So you need to focus on Rapture, the big daddies, the little sisters, all that stuff. Like, the story outside of that is still really interesting in Bioshock, and like the lore around all of that stuff is, I think, very interesting. And I think you can get some really good movie-worthy stories out of Rapture. But like the game's plot, you can't do, because you can't choose in a movie. Like, the whole Bioshock's story, the main beats of Bioshock's story, the main twist, you cannot do anything else other than it being a video game, because it doesn't work outside of being a video game. So you have to do something else. I don't like I said, if they pop in a "would you kindly" somewhere in the movie, I think that'd be a great Easter egg, but I don't think it should be the fundamental plot of the movie, because I think the world itself or other things in the Rapture can be much more entertaining in a movie sense. So I hope that's the direction they're going. Thank you everyone for watching today's video. I really appreciate it. Please subscribe to the channel. 95% of the people who watch my videos aren't subscribed, so please hit that subscribe button. Like the video if you liked it. Dislike it if you dislike it. I completely understand. You just heard my opinion. I would love to hear your opinion down in the comments down below. If you would like to join all of these nice people, please go over to patreon.com/thetechnojelly and join the credits, as well as some extra exclusive content on the Patreon. If you'd like to follow me on other platforms, I have a Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, and Threads. Thank you everyone for watching, and I'll see you in another video. Goodbye, everyone.